Media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
What is going on, y'all? Welcome to the weekend debrief here on the SHR Media Network, where faith in God sets the standard and masculinity is not toxic. Today is Saturday, May 16th in the year of our Lord, 2026. And we got a lot of good stuff to get into, but as usual, real quick, before we get into everything, please take a second, hit like and subscribe, and share the show, share the channel. Help us to break free from the big tech tyrants algorithm chokehold that they have us in. We're still growing, and we thank you for that. We thank God for the growth. But every click, every share, every comment matters. So please help us out with that. And also, this show is on the SHR Media Network, obviously. I have the personal channel, the individual channel, same show, same content, but we are 900 or 15 away from 1,000 subscribers. So thank you all for subscribing over there. We're 15 away. So please, I would really appreciate it if you would help me hit that 1,000 plateau. And also, as a quick reminder, this show is now going to be on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. So be sure to hit the bell so that you get reminded and you know when this show is going to be coming on. There was some confusion this morning when we scheduled the show. It got scheduled for 11 o'clock this morning. And so people were wondering where I was. And it was a brain fart that I scheduled it for the wrong time. So we got that corrected, and here we are. All right. Let's get into it. I know this is Saturday. And if you're into MMA, right now, I believe it is starting the Ronda Rousey, Gina Carano fight. There's going to be a bunch of prelims, so stick around. There's going to be a bunch of prelims, a bunch of guys who think they know MMA talking. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. Sometimes it sounds just like jibber jabber to me. But this show's going to be an hour. And when you're done, I know when I'm done, I'm going to go watch what's left of it. I'm sure the main event won't be for a couple hours, so stick around and let's have a little bit of fun. All right. Also, today is, as I said, May 16th. May 17th, 1776, was declared by Congress, proclaimed by Congress, as a day of fasting and Thanksgiving, an annual day of fasting and Thanksgiving. This was done numerous times throughout the Revolutionary War. And on May 17th, 1776, it was declared a day of humiliation, fasting, and prayer throughout the colonies. And Congress urged its citizens to confess and bewail our manifold sins and transgressions, and by a sincere repentance and amendment of life appease his God's righteous displeasure. And through the merits and mediation of Jesus Christ, obtain his pardon and forgiveness. That is, so tomorrow, May 17th, is a national day of prayer. And I just wanted to mention that. And also just whenever people say that this country was not founded as a Christian nation, it irritates me because it's just not true. Now, the government was not set up to be a theocracy. That is true. It was not set up to be a Christian government, but it was set up in such a way that it would not be suitable for people who were not, I don't want to say suitable, but it wouldn't work well for people if they just abandoned Christianity and abandoned God. And we're seeing how that is working out right before our very eyes in real time. And so I just wanted to put that out there before we get into the meat of the show. So, like I said, keep that in mind. Tomorrow, when you go to church or when you pray, just keep this country and the thing and our president and the people who are running this government in your prayers, and help them, ask God to help them be guided by him so that we get this country on the right track, keep it on the right track, and get it going in the right direction, and stop all this nonsense from these leftists who want to take us down all kinds of crazy roads that we just don't need. All right. And speaking of Christianity, we are going to get into a little bit more of that. Over the past couple of days, a couple of days ago, there was another massacre of Christians in Nigeria. 7 Christians were beheaded by Islamic terrorists. And unless you are looking for that news, paying attention to it, you're not going to hear about it. And it's sad because Nigeria has become one of the deadliest places on earth for Christians. Years of attacks from Boko Haram and ISIS West Africa, the Fulani extremists, kidnappings, church burnings, complete massacres of entire villages, beheadings like we just saw. And the media, the American Pravda, will say that it's communal violence. It's just criminals. It has nothing to do with Islam or Christianity or anything like that. And anyone with a couple of firing neurons knows that that is a complete and utter lie. In light of that, there is some good news. U.S. and Nigerian forces took out Abu Bilal al-Manuki, who is described as ISIS's global second in command. And this operation happened near the Lake Chad Basin, a major joint counterterrorism strike hit them there. And we have a little bit of video, and I want to take a look at it. I didn't set up my screen share properly, so bear with me a second. Here we go. There it is. There's no sound, but this is from I believe this is from the War Department. Hang on a second, it's coming. But yeah, this is the operation where they took this guy out. There it is. And the quarterback is toast. If you get that reference, let me know in the comments. Some of you may not may not get that, but I know some of you do. But this is our reminder that ISIS is still around. ISIS is still active in all the splinter groups like Boko Haram and ISIS West Africa and the Fulani extreme, all of that. They're still active and they're still killing Christians. And anyone really, they're killing anyone who's not, who refuses to convert. Sometimes they don't even give them a chance. And Christians won't convert. So whether they get a chance or not, this is still going to be the outcome. So ISIS and all these extremist groups, they're not just localized to Iran, Iraq, and Syria, and some of those other places. They are a global network. There are operatives in this country right now. And if you don't believe that, you're just not paying attention. But taking out the leaders like that is a good thing. That matters. Because the leaders, when you cut off the head, and yeah, there will be others who will rise up to take its place, but it gives, or at least it should give people pause. Now, some of these extremists, it may just, it may have no effect, but it matters from our perspective, because that demonstrates that people in charge still understand the threat that we're under from these people, from these animals, and we got to take them out. And think about how the world would react if Christians were on a crusade and Christians were going around the world just randomly seeking out Muslims, going into mosques and gunning down a mosque full of Muslims. Can you imagine? I mean, they make it up. They make up this stuff about Israel going in and slaughtering Arab Muslims. Imagine if it was actually happening, how the world would rise up against us. But when Muslims do it, the stories get sanitized and shoved aside just like that, real quick. All right, I want to move on because I want to get to, there's a few other stories I want to get to. And this is some good news, actually. Tina Peters. I don't know if you are familiar with Tina Peters. She was put in jail for a number of years. I believe she was sentenced to 9 years in jail for, well, she was found guilty of unauthorized access of election equipment after the 2020 election. And she was a whistleblower, and her defense was that she was trying to preserve election records to expose problems that she saw with the 2020 election in Colorado. She was a county clerk for Mesa County, and that turned into a whole, it turned into a national story when all of this came out. And she was convicted of that and allowing unauthorized access to this equipment and stuff like that. The people who charged her and put her on trial said that she violated security protocols, compromised election systems. I don't buy that for a second. I think she was made an example of. And this became a national story. And like I said, not a lot of people, I don't really hear about it a lot. And even now that she's been released, or she will be released on June 1st. She had her sentence commuted by the Democrat governor of Colorado, Jared Polis. Excuse me. She's now going to be free. And she was, like I said, she was sentenced to 9 years. When you compare what she did, and Jared Polis made it a point to point out in his statement, he's commuting her sentence. She's not being pardoned. She still is a convicted felon. But when you compare that to some of the convicted felons that walk free after serving days in jail, she was absolutely made an example of. The left who tried to vilify, who did vilify her, said that she was dangerous and she was abusing election systems. And the reality from my perspective is that, as I said, she was made an example of, and it was selective prosecution. Because when you think of the resources they brought to bear to put her on trial and sentence her, that money could have been so much better used to go after Tren de Aragua, go after all of the gangbangers that are in Colorado, go after all of the illegal aliens that are in Colorado. It makes no sense that she was sentenced to 9 years for that. And I thought I had a story here, but seems not. But anyway, like I said, she was sentenced to 9 years. She was treated for cancer while she was incarcerated. She's a 72-year-old woman. If she served the entire 9 years, it would have been a death sentence for exposing the corruption of the left. For exposing the corruption of the left and then speaking out about it. Because Jared Polis in his statement said he believed, based on the trial, that her speech and the things that she was saying, even though he didn't agree with them, were the basis for the severity of her sentence. And that's not supposed to be the case. As far as I'm concerned, she never should have been on trial in the first place. If the security thing, okay, whatever. But if you're gonna try her and convict her of that, then the attorney general, who was in charge of the elections, who let 700 BIOS passwords from all the election machines, let them sit on a public website for months. She didn't even get a talking to, even though she should be rotting in jail right now. These people, they will do anything to preserve their power. They will do anything to preserve their stronghold, their chokehold on power in this country. We see it with the Virginia gerrymandering, with the congressional maps. We see it all over the place. And nobody seems to really understand. I shouldn't say nobody. You and I do. We get it. But not enough people seem to want to actually handle the situation. Not enough people seem to want to get involved and put a stop to this. Now, the left they are taking a bunch of L's right now in court, and hopefully that is the start of something. I have zero confidence in Republicans at this point. They have repeatedly, almost to the point where it seems like they like doing it, snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. Happens all the time. So even though things look great right now on the Republican side, with all the L's that they're taking and all the power that they seem to be losing, it's a long way till November. So we're just going to have to wait and see. All right, we're gonna pivot into something a little more. We're gonna pivot into some pop culture after the break, but I want to get a word in from our sponsor, and our sponsor for today's show is Carry Girl Gear. Carry Girl Gear has all kinds of great designs for the patriotic woman of God. We have the Grace Collection. We have a new outdoor collection. So head over to carrygirl.com and check that out. Fellas, get your wife or your girlfriend or even your daughter some really cool gear. T-shirts, hoodies, accessories. I know it's not really hoodie season right now, but all kinds of accessories, drinkware, you name it. Carry Girl Gear has it for the strong, patriotic woman of God. So head over to carrygirl.com today. All right. We talked about this last week, and I mentioned it kind of in passing because it's not something I pay attention to much, and I wasn't really that familiar with the movie or anything like that. But it is so much worse than I thought. So much worse. I'm talking about the Odyssey. We all know at this point, Lupita Nyong'o was cast as Helen of Troy, and it goes beyond so much further than making Helen of Troy sub-Saharan African, which is ridiculous enough. But it turns out, as I was getting more and more familiar with this. It turns out that the inspiration and really the sole source material that was used in Nolan's adaptation of Homer's play was a 2017 feminist reimagining of the Odyssey. Yeah, a feminist reimagining. Whenever you hear something being reimagined, just know that 99.999% of the time, it is going to be so much worse. It's going to be bastardized. It's going to be a much worse version of whatever it is. You can take that to the bank. And this feminist version was written and translated by Emily Wilson, who apparently is this noted feminist scholar, allegedly. And her version of this was, I don't want to say trashed, but it was heavily criticized by other scholars as a misrepresentation, a mistranslation of the text in order to impose her feminist modern worldview. The language was basically conversational English. And when you realize that it was translated by a feminist and reimagined and all this stuff, casting Lupita Nyong'o in the role of Helen of Troy makes perfect sense. And casting Travis Scott as a bard, and Ellen Page, who prefers to be called Elliot Page, but as far as I'm concerned, it's Ellen Page from Juno as Achilles. When you realize where that comes from, the casting almost makes sense. Especially if you happen to be Sunny Hostin. And Sunny Hostin said something so unbelievably stupid. This woman claims to have advanced degrees. She's supposed to be a lawyer. She supposedly worked for the DOJ at one point. And in this clip, she alleges that she was also a teacher. But let's just go ahead and get into this, because this is something.
This idea was also explored in a book called Black Athena. I think people should read it, which argues that classical Greek culture is heavily indebted to Afro-Asiatic and Near Eastern roots. I actually taught Greek mythology to 8th graders. And so I covered this.
Fun fact.
So people that are saying that Helen of Troy could not possibly be played by a Black woman don't know history.
But what does it matter?
Did you catch what she said? Afro-Asiatic, not sub-Saharan African. She said that Greek culture was heavily influenced by Egyptian culture and stuff like that. That is all, yeah, Egypt is in Africa, but it's all Mediterranean. Have you ever seen a statue or painting of a Greek figure that looks like they were African? No, you haven't, because it's just not true. And for her to say something like that, and for everyone else on the panel to just nod in bovine agreement, tells you so much about these people. They are desperate for this representation nonsense, which is basically just racism. That's all it is. And I don't even like using, I've heard people say recently, use the term reverse racism. It's not reverse, it's just racism. And that comment was just stupid. Just ridiculous. And I don't generally, I don't want to say I don't generally, but race swaps for characters is not really the issue here. Sometimes race swaps are perfectly fine. If they don't detract from the story, and if they're not based on historical characters, like my wife was watching, or she was going to watch this show, and they portrayed, who was it? I can't remember who it was, but it was some queen from back in the day. Maybe it might have been Napoleon's wife. I can't remember, but it was some queen in that time period, portrayed as an African woman, which was it was a known, like a queen, a historic figure. In those instances, it's absolutely ridiculous and makes no sense. And I talked about, when we mentioned this last time, I talked about how there are characters that have been race swapped, and their race is of no consequence to the story that is being told. And one of the most popular ones that's out right now, Samuel Jackson, has been portrayed as, or is playing Nick Fury in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Nick Fury was once played by David Hasselhoff. Nick Fury, up until Samuel L. Jackson took the role, was always a middle-aged white guy. But his race had nothing to do with the story. Jason Momoa played Aquaman. His race, his blonde hair in the comics had nothing to do with the story. Morgan Freeman, who played Red in Shawshank Redemption. He was originally written as a white guy with red hair. But that was just mentioned in passing. It had nothing to do with the story. And Shawshank Redemption is regarded by a lot of people as one of the greatest movies of all time. I don't know if I agree with that, but there it is. And I know I'm kind of comic books heavy, because that's, if I'm not paying attention to the news, that's kind of what my entertainment diet is. And you have the the West from the Flash series, Iris West, Wally West, Joe West. They're all white in the comics. In the series, they're black. Doesn't make a difference. I say all that to set up this. In this case, in the Odyssey, Helen's beauty in and of itself is a character. Her beauty is mentioned more often in the poem than she is. She's described as a face that launched 1,000 ships. She started the Trojan War. Whatever you think of Lupita Nyong'o, I don't think she's ugly by any stretch, but she's not Greek and couldn't even pull off being Greek. Helen was described as having golden hair, and in some instances she's described as having blue eyes. And Greek women, Mediterranean women, they can have blonde hair, they can have brown hair, darker hair, olive skin complexions, but they're not sub-Saharan African. And that's the issue. And beauty is subjective. I mean, some of the women who've portrayed Helen of Troy, some people may not find particularly attractive. Some people may think they're absolutely gorgeous. That part is subjective. But the way that people are described in these historical, I know it's mythology, but the way people are described in these historical depictions and figures matters. If you want to tell a story with a sub-Saharan African, then write a new one. But don't take what people know and love and revere as classics and just completely destroy it. And then we have Achilles. Achilles is described in by Homer as having light or golden blonde hair, lion-like amber eyes, and he is described as the tallest and most striking of the Greek warriors, exuding an intimidating energy that terrifies the Trojans upon his return to the battlefield. We had Brad Pitt play, whatever you think about Brad Pitt, we had Brad Pitt play Achilles 20 years ago in Troy. And thanks to this feminist reimagining, we have 5'2", 115-pound Ellen Page, who is pretending to be a guy called Elliot. And we're supposed to suspend our disbelief and believe that she is the tallest and most striking of the Greek warriors. Are you kidding me? Are you? What? Wokeness ruins absolutely everything. Wokeness ruins everything. They whine about representation, and it wasn't that long ago. It was not that long ago when almost all of the most celebrated actors, okay, that might be a bit hyperbolic, many of the most celebrated actors in Hollywood were Black. Morgan Freeman, who we mentioned earlier. Denzel Washington, considered by many people to be the best actor of our time. He was once named the sexiest man alive, according to People magazine. And based on the movies that I've seen of his, I'm not gonna argue with anybody who says that he's the greatest actor of our time, because everything I've seen him in has been absolutely fantastic. Okay. Will Smith was once the highest paid actor for nearly a decade. And then The Rock also was the most bankable star for a while. That all happened organically. And now the Oscars has criteria for representation in order to even be considered for an Oscar. Forcing diversity and in equity and inclusion and all of that nonsense, forcing that for Oscar consideration has given us, in, I don't know, the past 15 years, maybe even longer than that, some of the most hot piles of garbage movies that have ever been put to film. I mean, the last movie that my wife and I went to see was Avengers Endgame. That was the last one we actually took the time and spent the money to go to a theater and see. And what was that? 10 years ago now? There's absolutely no reason to force this idea of equity. Equality provides the environment to get some of the most talented actors, regardless of their ethnicity. That's why we have a Denzel Washington. That's why we have a Morgan Freeman. And DEI is now why we have a 5'2" girl pretending to be a guy playing Achilles and a sub-Saharan African woman playing Helen of Troy. Come on. Come on. Utterly, utterly ridiculous. All right. I want to get into this. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because there's a few other really good things I want to get to. But just to keep in mind, Zohran Mamdani is an Islamo-communist who hates Jews. And the other day, he publicly celebrated Nakba Day. And Nakba Day, for those who, and it's Nakba Day, for those of you who are unfamiliar, and most of you probably are, on May 14th, 1948, Israel declared its independence. It was newly formed and it declared its independence. And on May 15th, 1948, Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq invaded. They invaded Israel and summarily got their butts whooped. Israel won that war, as they always do. And in prosecuting that war, Israel forcibly removed all of the Palestinian Arabs who were occupying that land and forced them out. And Nakba, translated, I think, means disaster, I think, something along those lines. And so on May 15th, every year they celebrate Nakba Day. They are commemorating an embarrassing military defeat on Nakba Day. And Zohran Mamdani, as I open this with, hates Jewish people. And he decided, as the mayor of a city with a huge Jewish population, he decided, yeah, let's go ahead and celebrate Nakba Day. And of course, because Israel won that war, that was, I don't know if it was the start, but it has perpetuated this idea that the Palestinians are the victims in this case. And were lines crossed, were atrocities committed during that war? Maybe. I don't know. I don't study. I didn't study that war. I don't know what all transpired, but I will say this, and I've said this on other occasions in regards to other topics. War is ugly. War is ugly. People, civilians, die sometimes. It's tragic, it's sad, but it happens. And the fact that these Arab countries invaded Israel and were repelled, somehow that makes the Arabs the victims in this scenario, as is always the case. They always portray themselves as victims and Israel as the little Satan, because of course America is the great Satan, according to these people. And as I said, Zohran Mamdani thought that this would be a good thing to celebrate. And of course, he's an Islamo-communist who hates Jews. And so he is doing everything he possibly can. And I'm sure after he posted his little Nakba Day video and X post, he was laughing with his anti-Semitic wife. Of course he was. But it's just another example of how anti-Semitic he is. And it still blows my mind. It still absolutely blows my mind that New York City elected an Islamist as their mayor. Still blows my mind. And he celebrates the people who committed that atrocity. His chief counsel in the mayor's office defended the terrorists. There are pictures of him palling around with one of the masterminds of that attack. And they still elected him. Absolutely blows my mind. All right, we got about 12 minutes left, and I got a few other clips I want to get into. Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart was roasted, I guess about a week or so ago now. Oh yeah, because one of the jokes was about Chelsea Handler being available on Mother's Day. I'm not I'm not going to play some of the jokes told at her expense by Tony Hinchcliffe, because they're pretty bad. They're hilariously funny, but I don't think appropriate for me to play, especially if there are children present. Yeah. But Tony Hinchcliffe did make a crazy, wild joke about George Floyd that got a lot of people upset. And I'm gonna play you the joke, and then I'm gonna play you the one of the responses. These roasts are supposed to be irreverent, over the top, and it's comedians roasting other comedians and celebrities. And especially if they're roasting another comedian, you know the jokes are going to be just raunchy and over the top. The Rock roasted him and was making jokes about his wife, and everybody was laughing because it's supposed to be funny and irreverent, and they're good friends and all the rest of it. So just hearing some of the jokes in a vacuum might be offensive to some people, but it's comedy. that's what it's supposed to be. George Carlin has told, I think he's one of the funniest comedians who has ever lived. He told some jokes. He had one special that I did not find particularly funny because he spent a lot of time bashing Christians and Christianity. I didn't like it. And I wasn't even a Christian then. But it was a joke. It was a comedy special. And I moved on. Wasn't a big deal. But anyway, let's take a listen to Tony Hinchcliffe roasting Kevin Hart.
You know, Kevin, they told me not to mention your kids on this roast, but I must say, you did good. They've gotten so big, they now buckle Kevin up in the car seat. It's true, he lost his gig hosting the Academy Awards because of some homophobic tweets, but you'd be homophobic too if you were eye level with everyone's cock. He got into a fist fight on a private plane, proof that no matter how much money black people have, they're still just gonna act like ninjas. Always fighting. Like Bill Cosby, Hart is a black comedian from Philadelphia, and like Bill Cosby, women don't know when Kevin is inside of them.
Ouch.
You've done good though, Kevin. The black community is so proud of you. Right now, George Floyd is looking up at us all, laughing so hard that he can't breathe.
Oh, yeah. Some of those I apologize for. But that last one was the one I wanted to get to. I thought I had it queued up at that point, but I didn't. My bad. But it's Saturday. But anyway, of course, you know, leftists absolutely lost their minds after that joke. And this is a BLM leader. And I'm not going to play the whole thing of her because you're going to get the idea. But let's go ahead and take a look at this too.
We are here today to call your attention to the fact that an egregious, disgusting joke was made about George Floyd. Here we are about to memorialize George Floyd for year 6 after his brutal murder at the hands of the Minneapolis Police Department. Our community is still experiencing grief and trauma. We have young people in our community who were children at the time, they're now teenagers, still dealing with the impacts of the police killing of George Floyd. And instead of allowing our community to grieve in peace, to celebrate George Floyd in peace, we have Netflix comedians making light of the brutal killing of George Floyd. It is unacceptable and it is unconscionable. Tony Hinchcliffe made a grotesque joke saying that.
That right there tells you everything you need to know. She started to talk about his joke and couldn't help herself, couldn't keep herself from laughing because it was funny. Just the hypocrisy of these people is just crazy. And nobody's going to say anything about it. Nobody's going to say anything about it. But when I saw that, I knew that it was all, I always knew it was all BS. But that right there should tell you everything you need to know. Everything you need to know. That it is absolutely meaningless. There was I want to get to this too, because I saw this and I saw this because after last week I started following this guy, and this was absolutely hilarious. This is some more Steve Inman Fight Clips commentary. And this, oh, this was good. Check this out.
A madman with a weapon in his hand, quite possibly box cutters, who the hell knows, but booyah! Entry is declined by the doorman. Now about to hand out a McKnuckle sandwich buffet. Goes from doorman to floorman as he drops his thumb to the floor and now handing out a freaking season's beatings welcome. Well, when Darren tried to step up to corn-fed Fred, he took one on the chin and booyah! There he goes, headsets, traveling higher than Jeff Bezos' weenie rocket. Now crying tears of soy after getting knocked the back into the dial-up era.
He said tears of soy.
Whatever the situation was, he wasn't prepared. He goes from freaking Hulkamania instantly into Soda-mania. As his knees wobble and buckle like a newborn deer, reality settles in and realizes, holy shit, I got a splitting headache. Nonetheless, he's still standing, almost took a drop at the truck stop, thinking, man, I should have just got drunk. A hangover is better than this.
Oh, these are absolutely hilarious. And that dude, he didn't realize what he was getting himself into. Had no idea. And caught a right hook. And he said his knees were wobbling like a baby deer. Oh boy. That's not the best one though. The best one, before we get you out of here. The best one is from our good friend. I shouldn't say that. Well, from a guy that we all know, and his name is Jamie Raskin. And I think it got lost in all my tabs. So I'm just going to pull it up fresh. Here we go. Jamie Raskin was in a congressional hearing, and he asked an absolutely ridiculous question. And the only thing I want to ask in response is, who's going to tell him? And when you hear this, you will know exactly what I'm talking about.
But I'm curious, why can ICE not pick up, with its massive resources, why can they not pick up the prisoners while they are still being held?
Are you kidding me? We just spent the better part of a year talking about, even more than that, talking about sanctuary cities and sanctuary policy and how these jurisdictions are refusing to allow ICE into their jails to pick up these prisoners. And in the jurisdictions where ICE is refusing, they go out into the community and all kinds of chaos ensues. But in places like Texas and Florida, where the jails actually cooperate, you don't hear about any of this madness. And he actually has the nerve to the lack of self-awareness of these people. And there are times when I feel like people ask these questions and they're looking for some sort of gotcha moment or some sort of clip moment, viral moment that they can. I think he's that stupid. And I've said before that I didn't think he was stupid, but that question right there and the way he asked it, it actually seemed sincere. It actually seemed like he had no idea why ICE doesn't go into the jails where these people are and grab them up. Are they really this retarded? And the answer is yes. Yes, they really are this retarded. All right, y'all. I am Big E, and you have been watching or listening to the Mission Ready Men Weekend Debrief right here on the SHR Media Network. And here you can catch all of our great hosts and their shows. We have Sackhead Sean on Mondays and Wednesdays at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific with the Edge of Liberty. We have Jersey Joe every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific with the Reaver of Common Sense. BZ in the Berserk Bobcat Saloon every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific. And I believe he actually has a special on Sunday. So be sure to check that out also, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific. And we have Lyle Armstrong with Beer and Bullstein every Friday and Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. And just a reminder, from the next time we're together will be on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific with the Mission Ready Men briefing. We are moving, and we will have some posts reminding everybody to check us out at that time. Please be sure to like and subscribe and share all of these great shows, and share the channel. Help us reach. We just I believe we're at 1,470 subscribers on SHR Media, and the Mission Ready Men briefing on the individual side is at 985. So please be sure to like and subscribe and share and help us get the word out to everyone. All right, that is it for the briefing. That is it for the debrief. We are not just here to yammer about nonsense. We are here to equip Christian men to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ and share the banner of faith, freedom, and hope into the next generation. And if any of what we said here today matters to you, don't just watch, but subscribe and share and bring another guy into the fight. And if you want to wear your statement, head over to missionreadymen.com, click Shop 7 Armors, and check out all of the great designs like this one that we have over there about bold faith, true grit, and unapologetic patriotism. And while you're there, also check out the SHR shop and check out all of the t-shirts for the guys' shows and the 250 reasons to read source documents tee, limited edition. So be sure to pick yours up before we run out. And remember, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep your prayers going up and your head on a swivel. God bless.